some breaking news. A federal judge just ruled that both President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth violated the law by using the military in the Los Angeles area over the summer. The Trump administration deployed thousands of federalized California National Guard members and Marines during an immigration crackdown in June. And this decision comes as the president weighs, as we were just talking about, whether to send National Guard members to other cities, as he has done in Washington, D.C. Joining us now is former federal prosecutor and Politico magazine senior writer Ankush Khardori. Ankush, thank you for coming here. So what is the judge's reasoning here?
Well, the judge's reasoning is fairly straightforward. He says that the Posse Comitatus Act prevents the deployment of the military on U.S. soil for normal law enforcement operations. And he held, after conducting a trial on this matter, that the National Guard was deployed in California for normal law enforcement operations, arrests, searches, stops, helping execute search warrants and things like that. And he said that this is illegal. And one thing I would point out that may get lost in the shuffle as we cover this is not really going to be relevant given the president runs the Justice Department effectively, but violations of the Posse Comitatus Act are a crime under ordinary circumstances, a low-level crime, but a crime nonetheless.
So what would the consequences be potentially for the president or defense secretary, also given the fact that this is after the National Guard had been deployed there and then left?
Yeah, so as to the criminal side, I mean, again, I don't expect the Justice Department to do anything about this since it's now the Trump Justice Department. With respect to the civil, on the civil side, though, you're right that most of the National Guard members are gone, but the judge said that there's still some remaining here. So even if it's in the low hundreds, his order requires them essentially to leave or to stop engaging in the conduct that was at issue here.
So then how do you expect this legal decision to impact President Trump's plans to possibly deploy National Guard troops to other cities like Chicago or New York, especially after he has done so here in D.C.? And what does it mean for the National Guard troops here in D.C. right now?
This is the National Guard in D.C. operates under a different legal framework. So this doesn't really tell us much about the legality of the National Guard deployment in D.C. With respect to L.A. and California, I would expect DOJ to appeal. We'll see. As for the effect of this decision on the administration's decision to deploy the National Guard in other states, look, under ordinary circumstances, under prior administrations, you would expect the White House to take this extremely seriously and for it to deter them from those sorts of deployments. We do not know, given the way that this administration has conducted itself, whether it will actually take that position, because as we learned during the Supreme Court litigation over the injunctions, the universal injunctions, you may recall, the Justice Department's position was effectively, we can kind of do whatever we want, whatever jurisdiction, unless and until we get a circuit court ruling or an appeals court ruling. So they may decide to plow ahead. Last thing I'll just say here is that even if they, I think, were to decide to do so, I think one of the reasons we've seen them pull back a bit is because polling showed that these deployments of the National Guard were quite unpopular, both in California and even more recently in D.C. on a national level. Not as lopsided as the California deployment, but unpopular nonetheless.
And does this also show you how difficult it is to really challenge once the president deploys the National Guard in cities, right? I mean, that's been a big topic of discussion. What are city officials like in Chicago and elsewhere? How are they going to do this if the president plows ahead with this plan? Because in this case, this was after the fact, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And actually, this judge tried to issue a ruling very early on, reaching effectively the same result, but he got overturned by the Ninth Circuit. Now, if you are the lawyers in those other jurisdictions and you expect or are thinking there may be a National Guard deployment, you should be using this decision sort of as an intellectual template for you, right? It lays out a set of standards that if you are the lawyers in those jurisdictions, you now want to adopt, and provides a level of analysis at the factual level that sort of gives you a roadmap for determining, okay, if I'm going to challenge the National Guard in my jurisdiction, I need to establish X, Y, and Z. And you'd want to follow the court's ruling pretty carefully just to demonstrate that you're following this authority. So I think you could see the upshot of that is I think you could see swifter responses as a result of this decision in jurisdictions where the National Guard may yet be deployed.
All right, Ankush Khardori, thank you so much.
fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the f they're doing.